retreat. Failures never taste the sweet. Science lessons learned in flight. Journey on to endless night. For the stars, we aim so high. The projected kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Orbit dreams won't be delayed. Lessons learned from missions made. Kerbal Kind will forge a path to the stars beyond this path. For the stars, we aim so high. The projected kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Keep flying through the light.
All right. Just need a few more bites of the pizza. I didn't finish. Almost done. So enjoy this bonus song. Here you go.
In a desert land so grand, EJ's got the master plan. Building dreams from oil and sand. Workers, resources in hand. Refinance clean with a gleam. Making cities from a stream. Sweat and grit is how it seems. Living out his wildest dreams. Heat is on in Bakalaka, Dagestan. We're building oil towers like a man with EJ at the helm. It's all in hand. In Bakalaka, Dagestan, we stand. Night and day, the grind won't stop. Concrete rising to the top. Mighty power in a drop. EJ hitting jackpot non-stop. Streaming live, his empire grows. In every borough, every close. From dusty plains to finance shows. EJ's name everyone knows. He is on in Bakalaka, Dagestan. We're building oil towers like a man with EJ at the helm. It's all in hand. stand. Night and day, the grind won't stop. Concrete rising to the top. Mighty power in a drop. BJ hitting jackpot non-stop. Streaming live, his empire grows. In every borough, every close. From dusty plains to finance shows. EJ's name everyone knows. Heat is on in Barkalaka, Dakistan. We're building oil towers like a man, with EJ at the helm, it's all in hand. In Bakalaka, Dakistan, we stand. We stand.
All right, dudes. Welcome to the Space and Rocket Review. Space and Rocket Review. Ugh. Barty with the 14 Australian dollar a day super chat over on the YouTube side. Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate you and your dollar dues. Thank you very much for contributing to the stream. Means a lot to me, mate. All right. Refund him for that act. Hey, that wasn't the worst you've ever heard. Be quiet. Quiet. I still have the racing rig hooked up because we're playing Summer Car later, so I might be a little bit lower in the chair than normal. Yep. All right. I wish the interesting stuff was streamed earlier and the boring car renovation stuff was when I was in bed.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Dread, what do you want me to do with that information? Somebody gifted a sub to I Like Bobbles. That's not what that says, but all right. Bobbles. I mean, don't we all? Pace 39-month resub.
Discovery,
Here.
go at throttle up.
Sup? Sup? Mr. 57 himself. Mr. Sup. 40-month resub. The ISS is leaking again. Yep. Feedback. Okay. What's today? Is today Thursday? I can't do an early space news tomorrow because of Flame Trench. Unless I get up. Get up early and work on the car at 9. Then maybe do space news before Flame Trench. But I don't know. You my summer carring later? Yes. Yes, I am. Do you think Ship 38 will be caught? Ship 38? I don't know, man. One mission is contingent on the next mission. So we're gonna have to see. Anyway. Pace, how you doing? You doing better lately? Are you on the up and up? Can you check out the cool box I sent you? I brought it into the house. It's on my kitchen table. So we do have car parts in the kitchen, just like Summer Car.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Space news before 4:30. Yeah, I won't stop in time. Yeah, you probably. Oh. The hell is that for, Geeson? After Flame Trench tomorrow, dudes, I have racing. We have the 2.4 hours at Le Mans. A big race for the Eric Johnson Racing Administration. Gas, gas, gas. I'm going to change the lyrics to the song. Da-da, da-da-da-da. and be a wiener. But you didn't burn down the kitchen? No, I didn't. But yeah, we got the big Le Mans race. 2.4 hours seems a little short. No, Snickers, you don't understand. We're using metric time, so it's fine. Oh, Trey, I got all that teed up. So for space news, dudes, the cycle is not, there's not a lot right now. There's not a lot, but we do have some pretty big news regarding SpaceX and Pad 37. And I figured, it might be a good idea. It might be a good idea to do a little bit of a deep dive into Slick 37B and learn a little. I whooped that pizza, sorry. And learn a little bit more about it. Should change the racing background to flags instead of stars. Well, I mean, yeah. Metric, finally. Yeah, we're using metric time, so it's 2.4 hours instead of 24 hours. That.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
No, the gift of the sub is like 37. Thank you. So, yeah, I thought that would be a cool thing to do. Kind of go down the list of, Slick 37 and talk about that. But first, I have a couple of different bits of news for you here. Did I hear that stage separation audio on that Electron yesterday? Sounded pretty cool. It was pretty cool, dude. That's that has been done before, but not many times. If you rearrange the letters in metric, you get crime and a T. No. Well, it might be French pace. It might be like crime-it, but the T you might not pronounce it. So, like, even though it's spelled crime-it, it might be like cremant, crime, escalante, or something like that. I don't know. It's all Greek to me. Etymos prosopahorisi. Sorry. Anyway. Dread, I will, Dread, I'll see what I can do for you, buddy, okay? Probably won't get it tomorrow, but maybe, like, I can do an early space news for, like, viewers or something. Like, maybe we do that on Wednesday. On Wednesdays, we, like, work on the car, then do space news, and then, just spend the night playing my summer car. Oh, God. You know what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. But maybe. I'll see what I can do. Ours did an interview with Rook. Yeah. I wanted to talk about that. But there is a couple of other things before we get to that. So, check this out. First thing, right here. NASA, Axiom Space, delay the Axiom mission to the space station. That's the crew of the Axiom 4 mission, commanded by Peggy Whitson, former NASA astronaut. So, here, let's read what's going on here. NASA and Axiom are postponing the launch of the Axiom 4 mission to the ISS. As part of an ongoing investigation, NASA is working with Roscosmos to understand a new pressure signature after a recent post-repair effort in the aftmost segment of the space station's Zvezda service module. Cosmonauts aboard the space station recently performed inspections of the pressurized module interior surfaces, sealed some additional areas of interest, and measured the current leak rate. Following this effort, the segment is now holding pressure. The postponement of the Axiom 4 mission provides additional time for NASA and Roscosmos to evaluate the situation and determine whether any additional troubleshooting is necessary. NASA defers to Roscosmos to answer specific questions about the Zvezda module. A new launch date for the 4th private mission will be provided once available. Well, that's good. You don't have to get up too early tomorrow. Peggy Whitson, former NASA astronaut and director of human spaceflight at Axiom Space, will command the commercial mission, while ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla, oh, nice, I got that, will serve as pilot. The two mission specialists are European Space Agency project astronauts. Let's just call him Jeff or something. Jeff of Poland and Tibor Kapu of Hungary. The crew will lift off aboard the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft on Falcon 9 from Launch Complex 39A and NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Wisniewski, Wyzanewski. Wisniewski? We'll call, yeah, you know what, Stan's better. We'll call him Stan. Stan Wisniewski. To give no details. Well, it sounds like they sealed everything up, which is good. Yeah. Sounded like they sealed everything up, so that, you know, hey, it's pretty good. I mean, that mission had been previously delayed because Falcon 9 developed a liquid oxygen leak that they found during the static fire for the AX-4 mission a little bit earlier this week. And the SpaceX at first decided to mitigate the problem, and then right after that they said, nah, never mind, we'll just try and fix it. So they did delay the mission. They originally were going to delay it until Friday. And it looks like NASA and Roscosmos said, no, don't do that. So there you go. So the reason for the delay was basically for them to ensure that it's not leaking anymore. You don't want to send more people up there and stress your environmental You don't want to send more people up there and stress out your environmental control and life support systems when the station is losing pressure. More people up there is more air to recycle, more air to scrub. That will stress out the you'll overstress your life support systems, or at least you'll put them under a higher duty cycle. And you don't want, if you do that, you're moving more air around in the space station and it is leaking, you're going to bleed more air out of the space station. Now, that is also, it's also worth mentioning, just on a side note, get Starbase Lab going on in the background. It's also worth mentioning, just on a side note, that the space station leaks. Everything leaks. Everything leaks a little bit. You can't completely mitigate it. Just like a boat, like a ship sailing at sea. It's always going to take on a little bit of water. The bilge will get it out of there for you, right? Space stations always leak. Spacecraft leak. You're never going to get it. It's never going to be exactly perfect, but you can get it close. But you're never, like, it's the rate of leak that is your problem. If you're leaking at a faster rate than your your environmental control systems can replenish oxygen, well, now you got a little bit of an issue. Every boat has a bilge pump. Most of them do. I mean, not smaller vessels, I'm sure. Like, some of them have a passive bilge, like a small, like I don't know, a 20-foot boat has a passive bilge, which is basically, you know, you put the boat in the water, you drive it around, and then when you're done, you unscrew a little cap at the transom on the back, on the aft end of the ship or the boat, and empty the bilge that way. It's behind, like, if it's behind the engines at the aft part of the ship. It depends. I mean, anyway, for some it's called a bucket. That, yes, sure, yes, that too. Also, it is a red letter day. Bum ba-dum, bum 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 ba-dum, bum ba-dum, bum bum ba, bum ba-dum, bum 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 ba-dum, bum 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 ba-dum, bum bum bum. All right. Anyway, Spaceballs 2: The Search for More Money the trailer was announced today. Lord knows we'll all be back in the sequel. Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. May the Schwartz be with you! Some people were really happy about this. Other people said, Barf! Nah, that's my name. Barf. Who is that? Who is that? He's a Twitch chatter, sir. I know that. What's his name? That is his name, sir. And that other guy? He's a Twitch chatter, too. 60-month subscriber. Twitch chatter. How many Twitch chatters we got in this stream, anyhow? I can't believe it. I'm surrounded by chatters. Keep chatting, chatters! Spaceballs the live stream! The kids love this one.
Discovery.
Sarah, a 96-month resub. Maybe the Boring Company can be contracted out for a limited run of Spaceballs the Flamethrower. What did I miss? Nothing. EJ, you didn't see me playing with my dolls again. Good! So, Princess Vespa, at last you were alone. No, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Leave me alone. Yet, I find you strangely attractive. Of course you do. Jewish princesses are often attracted to money and power, and I have both. And you know it. No, I hate you. No, kiss me. Yo, oh. Your helmet is so big. Knock on my door. Knock next time. Did you see anything? Good. Excuse me. Boogies. No, sir. I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Good! Oh yeah, you came here for space news, not space balls. Sorry, I got confused. The Flight 8 investigation is closed? Oh. All right, well, let's see what's good over there. Did mein Freund Herr Beil, Herr Bill, find something? What did you find, Adrian? Okay. The FAA investigation into Flight 8 has been closed. It resulted in 8 corrective actions after a Raptor failure on Flight 8. The FAA required investigation of the SpaceX Flight 8 mishap is closed. There are no reports of public injury, damage to public property. The FAA oversaw and accepted the findings of the SpaceX-led investigation. The final mishap report cites the probable root cause for loss of the Starship vehicle as a hardware failure in one of the Raptor engines that resulted in an inadvertent propellant mixing and ignition. SpaceX identified 8 corrective actions to prevent a reoccurrence of the event. The FAA verified that SpaceX implemented the corrective actions prior to Flight 9 mission. Well, that's good. All right. Well, that's good news. When Flight 9? Yeah. When Flight 9? What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken? So an explosion. It sounds like that Raptor engine decided to Raptor-ent. You know what I mean? Raptor-ent. I mean, that doesn't really give us that FAA statement. Well, good to know that it closed. That really didn't give us any new details. That's the exact wording that SpaceX used. A hardware failure in the Raptor engine. I'm telling you guys, Flight 8, whatever that was a stupid mistake. I don't think Flight 8 had the pogo problems. Neither does the FAA. Neither does SpaceX. I don't think it has the pogo problems that Flight 7 did. I think that Flight 8 Flight 8 was an entirely different failure, and it was a stupid mistake, whatever it was. Like somebody not tagging something, not tagging out, or tagging out something, or somebody not testing an engine correctly, and like it's just somebody forgot to tighten a bolt. It's something dumb. I've said it once, I'll say it again. It is something stupid. I know what happened with Flight 9, I don't know. Sorry, I ground down a piece of the metal today without with just the face shield on. And now I got a bunch of boogies. Lava Eagle. All right, well, let me answer John's question first. Does the FAA have a resident inspector at Starbase like the NRC does at each plant? I wouldn't be surprised. I think so. Actually, I think they do, yeah. Lava Eagle, what's your question? I have a question. I know that you might have repeatedly said how iterative testing is good and all, and I'd agree. However, do you think that with so much iteration, some of these Band-Aid solutions might end up overlapping and causing a bigger issue further down the line? No. I think the fixes that these Band-Aid issues are trying to overcome are coming down the line already, and SpaceX is just getting flight data when they can with what they can. I think a lot of the fixes are implemented, Lava Eagle, but it takes a second for them to come down the proverbial production line. Some stuff takes more time to get. Like Raptor 3 is taking more time than the Block 2 ship. Probably unfound rust in the ship's leaf spring perch. Makes sense to me. Bath, puke, whatever. The intern forgot to put in a rubber seal. Something like that, Trey, yeah. Left a wrench in its tank? No, it's not a Titan missile. Mana. Apparently the next date is June 29th. That's my vacation. Where did you hear the 29th? Somebody must have leaked it. It probably won't stick, guys, but if the 29th doesn't stick, it's going to be sometime. It's going to be sometime during my vacation, isn't it? You can take the week off after. No, I'm good. Liam, where'd you get that information from? You can vacation at the Margaritaville Hotel. I don't want to do that. They're doing the best to make sure you're not there, so it makes it probably, yeah. We know Elon watches the stream. I mean, probably not, but it's a joke. Let me put it to you this way. If it goes on the 29th, I am screwed. Like, royally screwed. I am in another wedding that day. Yeah. I am in another wedding that's a destination wedding. Actually, it's that weekend. Sorry, but yeah, the point is that I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be near my computer. So, that's part of the reason why. Das? Oh, Das is already married. Das has been married for a long time. He's been married longer than me. I could see EG at the wedding going, 3, 2, 1, go! Yeah. Yeah. I ain't doing no destination wedding if I have to pay. Yeah, I know. You're marrying Das? No, yep. Don't know how you got that from what I said, but all right. Twitch friends not enough? You need real friends? You need in real life friends too? Not friends, family. Hold up, you guys have friends and family? Family. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't stick. Anyway, let's get through the other bits of news here before we get to the Slick 37B thing. All right, so Firefly Aerospace. Our Spectre engines are breathing fire at Agile Space's test facility. First used in space during our historic Blue Ghost Mission 1, these proven engines will be our next These proven engines will power our next Blue Ghost mission to the far side of the moon and future Elytra space missions. Okay, what do we got? Wrote. Bam. Then they'll have a memorable wedding. How many folks have a Starship countdown as part of the wedding? Yeah, right. I don't know if that's a check engine light, though. Yeah. Can throw it, dude. That's cool, man. Can I touch it? I wouldn't. I would not lick that. Yeah, that would really hurt. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, looks like Firefly's getting ready for their next Blue Ghost mission. Firefly launched their Blue Ghost 1 mission, Ghost Riders in the Sky, which did successfully land on the moon earlier this year. Wedding, your side or her side? No comment. It's not in Michigan, Bob. Sorry. Interesting, Black Eagle. All right, we got an update from Stoke here. After 53,000 seconds of hot fire testing and 43 plus design iterations, we've locked in the final Andromeda thruster for flight. From a backyard shipping container a few years ago to powering the Stoke's Nova rocket to space. Let's go! Rocket with shipping container. Bigger rocket in bigger shipping container. Okay. It's all good, farm. Don't worry about it. Nice, W. That's cool. Dirt bike. Cool. All right, so check this out. This next one is an Eric Berger article from Ars Technica, dudes. Check this out. This was just posted actually a second ago. Actually, well, it's about an hour and a half ago, but you get the idea. So, Eric Berger had an interview with Jared Isaacman. Let's see. Let's see what Eric writes here. Nearly 2 weeks have passed since Jared Isaacman received a fateful, brief phone call from two officials in President Trump's Office of Personnel Management. In those few seconds, the trajectory of his life over the next 3.5 years changed dramatically. One person was found folded neatly in half and placed into the back of a sanitation truck. Police are baffled. All right, anyway. The president, the caller said, wanted to go in a different direction for NASA administrator. At the time, Isaacman was within days of a final vote on the floor of the U.S. Senate and assured of bipartisan support. He had run the gauntlet of 6 months of vetting, interviews, and a committee hearing. He expected to be sworn in within a week. And then it was all gone. That's a fragment, Eric. What the hell's the matter with you? It's a fragment. That's not good grammar, bro! I'm just kidding. Screw on. I was very disappointed, especially because it was so close to confirmation. I think we had a good plan to implement, said Jared Isaacman. Jared Isaacman's nomination was pulled for political reasons, as SpaceX founder and one-time President Trump confidant Elon Musk made his exit from the White House. Key officials who felt trampled on by Musk took their revenge. They knifed a political appointment, Isaacman, who shared Musk's passion for extending humanity's reach to Mars. The dismissal was part of a chain of events that ultimately led to a break in the relationship between Trump and Musk, igniting a war of words that they've since walked back. But yeah, the Senate meeting was supposed to be sorry, metal boogies. It was supposed to be that day. Right there. The confirmation hearing was supposed to be one of these days. And they pulled the nomination on that day right there. So, you know, good times. When I spoke with Isaacman this week, I didn't want to rehash the political melee. I preferred to talk about his plan. After all, he had 6 months to look under the hood of NASA, identify the problems that were holding the space agency back, and release its potential in this new era of spaceflight. Yeah, the vote. Sorry. I said hearing. The hearing was already there. Hey, Fuke It. How are you? This explains Rook's recent comments. He's trying to get the president to reconsider. Well, let's keep reading, Bob. Man with a plan. It shouldn't be a surprise. The organizational structure is very heavy with management and leadership. Lots of senior leadership with long meetings who have their deputies, who have their chiefs of staff, who have their deputy chiefs of staff and associate deputies. He's right. It's not just a NASA problem, it's across government. There are principal, deputy, assistant to the deputy roles. It makes it very hard to have a culture of ownership and urgent decision-making. Agreed. Yeah, he's right. Isaacman said his plan, a blueprint of more than 100 pages detailing various actions to modernize NASA and make it more efficient, would have started with the bureaucracy. It was going to be hard to get the big, exciting stuff done without a reorganization, a rebuild, including cultural rebuilding and aggressively hungry mission-first culture. Please tell me he would have gone in there and fired everybody, because that's what I said I would do. One of his first steps would have been an attempt to accelerate the timeline for the Artemis II mission. Fuck you. Which is scheduled to fly 4 astronauts around the moon in April of 2026. He planned to bring in strike teams of engineers to help move Artemis and other programs forward. Isaacman wanted to see the Artemis II vehicle on the pad later this summer, with the goal of launching in December of this year, echoing the historic launch of Apollo 8 in December of 1968. Graham, your mom says hi. Hello. Isaacman also sought to reverse the space agency's decision to cut utilization of the International Space Station due to budget issues. Instead of the current thinking, 3 crew members every 8 months to manage the budget, I wanted to go 7 crew members every 4 months. I was even going to pay for one of the missions if need be, to just get more people up there, more cracks at science, and trying to figure out the orbital economy. Or else life would be very hard on the commercial low Earth orbit destinations. See, this dude, oh, I hope he gets it back. This guy gets it, man. That's right. That's correct. No, Rams did. Change his name to Isaacman Jared and submit another bid. As part of this, he would have pushed for the certification of SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft to carry 7 astronauts, which was in the vehicle's baseline design, instead of the current 4. This would have allowed NASA to fly more professional astronauts but also payload specialists like the agency used to do during the shuttle program. Essentially, NASA experts of certain experiments would fly and conduct their own research. Isaac Jaredman. Yes. I wanted to bring back the payload specialist program and open up to the NASA workforce, because things are pretty difficult right now, and I wanted to get people excited and reward the best. He also planned to seek goodwill by donating his salary as administrator to Space Camp at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville for scholarships to inspire the next generations of... Man! Money talks, Aqualux. What are you going to say? I'm wrong? Nuclear spaceships. Isaacman's signature issue was going to be a full-bore push into nuclear electric propulsion, which he views as essential for the sustainable exploration of the solar system by humans. Nuclear electric propulsion converts heat from a fission reactor to electrical power, like a power plant on Earth, and then uses the energy to produce thrust by accelerating an ionized propellant such as xenon. Nuclear propulsion requires significantly less fuel than chemical propulsion, and it opens up more launch windows to Mars and other destinations. Okay. It's also the equivalent of like using a rowboat to get across the ocean. Yeah, it's really efficient because you sit there rowing the damn thing all day, but it's fine. Although the NASA budget really stopped nuclear research, it supposedly is getting rid of the Draco project, which Jared has said many times he doesn't like nuclear thermal, which is all right. We would have gone, all right, let's read. We would have gone right to a 100 kilowatt test vehicle that we would send somewhere inspiring with some great cameras. Then we are going right to the megawatt class inside of 4 years, something you could dock a human-rated spaceship to, or drag a telescope to a Lagrangian point and then return. Big stuff like that. Okay. The goal was to get America underway in space on nuclear power. Well, if that was your mission goal, I suddenly like nuclear electric. That's fine. That, whatever. If that's how we do it, if that's how you want to do that, sure. As long as you have a good plan for it. Not a chance in hell that would make it past the NRC. Well, John, then what's the point in even trying, right? Frick it, He's the NASA administrator. I'm sure he would have had some pull in this regard. Sounded like he wants to buy a Vasmir engine and get it flying in that time frame. Maybe that's part of the problem. 1 megawatt isn't a rowboat. It would be a motorboat then. Yeah. Another key element of this plan is that it would give NASA, some of NASA's field centers, including Marshall, important work to do after the cancellation of the SLS rocket. Pivoting to nuclear spaceships, in my mind, was just the right thing to do for the SLS states, even if it's not the right locations to the right people. There are a lot of dollars there that those states don't want to let go of. When you speak to those senators, if you give them another kind of bar to grab onto, they can get excited about what comes next. Dude, that's what I've been saying! That's what I've been saying this whole damn time. Yes. Only my idea was just more SLSs, but this idea works too. And imagine an SLS caliber budget going into building nuclear orbiters that can do all sorts of things. That's directionally correct, right? It's not how I would have done it, but hey, plenty of ways to skin a cat, man. Let's go. Nothing right as of yet. Lava Eagle. What direction NASA takes now is unclear, but the loss of Isaacman is acute. Or is it obtuse? The agency's acting administrator, Janet Petro, is largely taking the direction from the White House Office of Management and Budget and has no independence. The confirmed administrator is now months away. The lights at the historic space agency get dimmer each day as a result. Burb. Considering politics. As for what he plans to do now that he suddenly has time on his hands, Isaacman stepped down as chief executive of Shift 4, the financial payments company he founded, to become NASA administrator. He's weighing his options. I'm sure a lot of supporters in the space community would love to hear me say that I'm done with politics, but I'm not sure that's the case. But I'm not sure that's the case, he said. I want to serve our country, give back, and make a difference. I don't know what, but we'll find something. You've talked for years about nuclear orbital tugs. I'm surprised you're not more bullish about the idea. Edmana, where I'm at with nuclear stuff is that nuclear electric it's feasible. Nuclear thermal technology exists right now. It exists right now. We've made them before and we've tested them before and they worked. The reason why I'm more bullish on like nuclear thermal, less nuclear electric is because, look, I mean, as much as I don't like what John Clark said over in Twitch chat, John, you're my boy, don't worry about it. I have the NASCARs you gave me up on my wall, by the way. Shelf the other day. Yeah, I haven't forgotten about those. I see them every day. As much as I don't mind nuclear electric, but he's right. John's right. You're, just because you eliminate the bureaucracy at NASA doesn't mean you're not going to do it for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which probably shouldn't be deregulated, or any other government agency, right? Like, it's probably not nuclear thermal is something that already exists. It's something, we understand. We've known about it for a half century, right? Like, so that would be an easier stepping stone. If you went nuclear thermal, right, and then gradually did more research with your nuclear thermal tugs that are up there and refuelable into nuclear electric power, maybe start as with a propulsion, like a nuclear thermal engine that also generates electricity with a power takeoff from the Nerva, right? To, with like ion thrusters on the side for its RCS, there you go. You have a very procedural stepping stone style architecture there. RTGs are, Voyager uses RTGs, yeah, radioisothermic electric generators. Those are not good for a propulsion system. They're good for trickling power over a very long period of time. They utilize nuclear waste heat from nuclear decay and convert that into electrical power. So yeah, it's not that, dude, I'm kind of on board for nuclear electric, sure. And like, when we heard Rook talk about it before, I was just like, what? What are you talking about? First of all, his reasons for not liking nuclear thermal are a little weird. He's like, oh, nuclear thermal doesn't do anything. It just sits on its test stand all day. Well, yeah, that's what happens to something that you decide to defund after you have a working prototype. It seems to have been NASA's MO for the past 50 years. You could say that about a lot of things. That's not just nuclear power. Correlation doesn't equal causation. You know what I mean? But whatever. I mean, from this Ars article, dude, if you got a plan, if you got a plan of attack, I'm in. We would have gone right. See, like, dude, that seems like a pretty good plan. That's fine. Slowly scale up the tech, do demonstrators, and then in 4 years, you have a megawatt thruster. Electric propulsion, guys. So Rook is not necessarily wrong about electric propulsion. Nuclear electric propulsion is a good idea. Electric propulsion is a good idea in general. But right now, electric propulsion is really only limited to RCS, reaction control systems on satellites. Starlinks use electric propulsion for what it's worth. Now, electric thrusters require two things. You need an inert gas, so a non-reactive gas, believe it or not, and you need electrical power. What they do is they ionize an electrical arc through a thrust chamber, I should say, and they flow gas over it. Basically, think like the reverse of a MIG welder. Actually, it does basically what a MIG welder does and uses it for propulsion. But instead of the gas shielding the electrical arc, it's arced through the flow of gas, right? And that the resulting ionization of said gas does create thrust. That's what an ion thruster is. The downsides to a nuclear electric system is that you need noble gases. You need argon, krypton, xenon. Like if you look at the periodic table, look at the far right-hand side of the periodic table. Those are what you need. Those are kind of hard to find around the solar system. It's a lot easier to find hydrogen around the solar system. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. It's literally everywhere. Well, not literally, it's actually everywhere. You can find it on Mars, you can find it on the moon, you can find it in deep space, you can find it anywhere. And nuclear thermal uses hydrogen. I mean, albeit liquefied, so you'd need a Sabatier reaction to utilize it, but you're going to need a lot more to be able to find noble gases around in the universe. But that's a downside. But a plus side is that electric propulsion is very, very scalable. It's very scalable. The reason why electric propulsion thrusters, first of all, electric propulsion thrusters are about the size of a baseball. So like for anybody else that doesn't know the size of a baseball, about the size of an apple, maybe. Metric apples though, right? So they maybe get about this big. The biggest ones are maybe the size of a football. Maybe. Maybe, like, they're scalable, but the problem is you can't generate enough power in space. The thruster is limited by how much power you can generate, and satellites generate power with solar panels. So electric propulsion in space has about the thrust of a desk fan. That's, like, see that? That's like 2 times the thrust of like an average Hall effect thruster. Like just blowing on a piece of paper. That's way more than a thrust than an ion thruster makes, but that's because they're coupled to solar panels. If you hook ion thrusters up to a nuclear reactor, one that can deliver 1,000 watts, you could theoretically make I don't know how big of a power plant you want. If you said something generating a megawatt, right? Like, so 1,000 watts, that's, I don't know, a thruster like that. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? 1,000 megawatt nuclear electric thruster probably make like 3 or 4 kilonewtons of thrust. Maybe. But it's 3 or 4 kilonewtons of thrust with like 4,000 second specific impulse. Oh yeah, megawatt is 1,000,000 watts. Yeah, kilowatt is, yeah, there you go. Yeah, 1,000 megawatt. You get what I'm trying to say. You want somebody that's better with electricity, find an electricity-er. Okay? So, but you say you get more power for the thruster. How much faster will you burn off the inert gas, and does that affect the delta V? Of course, it's a reaction mass. Of course, you're going to have to flow more gas, right? I think 3 kilonewtons is too much. So let me put it this way. So Lava Eagle, if we had a nuclear electric propulsion system and it made 5 kilonewtons of thrust, I mean, that, 5 kilonewtons of thrust would get, I mean, dude, that's pretty damn efficient, right? Like,
say nice things about those people.
who?
Those people.
Why?
Because they just gave me a leash because Titan got out again. Because I'm an idiot. So I took him back so I could take him back. They got me a leash.
Oh.
So, they're cool. That was a wife, though.
Okay.
So,
Did you, like, talk to them?
but yeah. She gave me a leash. She said, "Well, I'm bringing you back." And I did that.
All right.
She seemed cool.
Yeah, that's the lady that I met before.
Yeah. So,
Whatever.
wanted to give you an update. I'm just an idiot. There were bunnies out there like 10 minutes ago, and I scared him away. But I was like, he just kept barking at me. So I was like, I'll let him out to the fence. And I went to go get the blue leash. The student passed me and everybody turned.
Nice. You want to get a BB gun?
I don't want to kill him.
Why don't you want to kill the wabbit?
I don't mind a wabbit. I mind the way my dog reacts to the wabbits.
Kill the wabbit. Kill
That's
the
the dog.
wabbit. Kill
That's
the
the dog for,
wabbit.
like,
Kill
30
the
minutes after
wabbit.
he sees-
What?
That's the dog for like 30 minutes after he sees one.
Kill the wabbit.
That's all.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, he's hiding in the stove, eh? Would I put a lit match in there if he was? Oh, you might, rabbits. You might. Bye-bye. Love you. I say it's duck season, and I say fire. Anyway, guys, I was just thinking about like nuclear propulsion. Like, even if you had, okay, so you have a 1 megawatt nuclear reactor feeding an electric thruster. That's not going to make a lot of thrust. I mean, you'd be lucky if you got like to 5 kilonewtons, dude. Like, a Draco thruster on a Dragon makes more. But it's super efficient, right? But the problem is you're lugging around a nuclear reactor. So it's very efficient, but it's very high. It's a very high dry mass ratio. So you can't jettison the nuclear reactor. You can't stage it. So your mass fraction is caca, right? Like, that would be good for like on-orbit satellite servicing or something, but you're not using that. You're not coupling like a nuclear electric thruster to like a transfer vehicle and sending that to Mars. You're not doing that on any timely scale because you're really limited to extremely low energy transfers that way. TWR, thrust to weight ratio. According to ChatGPT, a 1 megawatt Hall effect thruster would only put out 2 to 6 newtons. That Lava Eagle. Okay, so John, that's what ChatGPT said. Lava Eagle, what are you saying? The issue comes from the fact that the jet power, if limited by the input electrical power and specific impulse, since specific impulse is high, thrust is necessarily very low. So a 1 megawatt thruster at 4,000 seconds specific impulse gives you 50 newtons of thrust. which is pretty crap for the power involved. That's what I'm saying. Nuclear electric, like what? Like why would you do that? Even with a very small reactor? I mean, Tim, that's what you'd really need to do. I mean, in order to do that, NASA needs to work on compact nuclear power, a compact nuclear reactor that can work in space. Just saying, Nerva had 300 kilonewtons of thrust at 900 seconds specific impulse. Now, that's something that you can use to move something somewhere. They have been. Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, not like, dude, 5 newtons is not a lot. This is 5 newtons of thrust. Here, look, just got a cough drop pack. That's 5 newtons of thrust, maybe. That's it. This fan on my desk makes more thrust than that. Like, so Lava Eagle, can you put out some, can you do some math for me? How much power would we need to, can you reverse this for me? Because I'm on the stream and I don't streamer brain. If we wanted a nuclear electric engine to make 300 kilonewtons of thrust, how much power would we need to generate utilizing a Hall effect electric thruster? At 4,000 second specific impulse again? Yeah, sure. I think that a actual Hall effect thruster is a little bit less specific impulse than that.
This is space. I'm in space.
5 subs, ba-doo-doo. Ba-dong-a-dong, 5 subs, dude. Last. Not to mention you have to convert the heat energy to electric. Yeah. 6 gigawatts of power. You would need 6 gigawatts. 5 flux capacitors worth of power. You'd need 5 Mr. Fusions. Yeah, that's not happening. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's not something you're doing in 4 years. John, you're absolutely right. That's not something, like, you need a breakthrough, a giant breakthrough in material science. Like, and don't get me wrong, dude, if he got to be NASA administrator and he made NASA gung-ho, I'm standing up because the racing rig is hurting my back. And he got to be like gung-ho about it, dude? Sure. Sure, why not? No, this. Fission surface power. Okay. That's surface power. I'm not sure what bearing that has on spaceflight propulsion. That's 3 times the power consumption of Puerto Rico. Yeah, so fusion might be able to do it, sure. Nuclear thermal uses waste heat for thrust. So, like, I'd be on board with, like, a nuclear thermal rocket with nuclear electric RCS, right? That would be cool. But yeah, going straight electrical, I'm not sure how to feel about that. Works in 0G, is geared towards surface ops to fit with the Artemis program. Okay. What about a hybrid that uses both modes? A nuclear thermal tug with nuclear electric RCS, dude. Now we're talking. That is something you could do in 4 years, easily. NTR doesn't produce that much extra electricity. Have a power takeoff. Put a freaking alternator on it, Make. Have an alternator attached to one of the turbines, one of the turbo pumps. What do you got to do? Worry about waste heat and thrust? Put a freaking generator on it. Anyway, I want to read this last bit of the Rook article, but I got to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back 1 second, okay? Just here. Enjoy the music for 1 second. Got to go to the bathroom. I got to go to the bathroom, Daddy. Not now, damn it. Truck tire. I can't stop!
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
We have confirmation of payload deploy. How you guys doing? Hey, what happened to the black chair? It's right there. See? It's right there. Look. It's right there. Oh. That must have been one heck of a poop. You look exhausted. It was a hard-fought battle. It's a hard-fought battle, but we got a lot of good punches in there, but I still think I won the fight. I think you need 100 kilowatts to 1,000 kilowatts to get a reasonable amount of thrust. That's what I'm saying, man. Nuclear electric is... I'm not sure what you're going to do with that. You ain't putting... That's not moving people anytime soon unless you're going to get a crash course in nuclear electric. Like Apollo levels of budget there. I mean, don't get me wrong, never say never. If anybody, Rook could convince it, people. But yeah, anyway, let's continue with this Rook article. Let's see what we got. So, I'm sure a lot of supporters in the spaceflight community would like to hear me say that I'm done with politics, but I'm not sure that's the case. I want to serve our country, give back, make a difference. I don't know what, but I will find something. What his role in politics would be, Isaacman, who has described himself as a moderate Republican-leaning voter, is unsure. However, he wants to help bridge a nation that is riven by partisan politics. Yep, that's fair. I think if you don't have more moderates and better communicators try to pull us closer together, we're just going to keep moving further apart, and that just doesn't seem like it's good for the country. Right? I don't know, man. I guess he's staying in politics. Judging by thruster efficiencies, the actual electric power might be up to 7.5 gigawatts. Hope we got fusion. Important thing I forgot to mention, the 6 gigawatt was jet power, so the actual input electrical power must be even higher. And also, electric thrusters are not easy to scale because of funny plasma behaviors and stuff. They're pretty scalable. I have it on pretty good authority. Source. I made it up. The interesting thing is you don't need much shielding in space. Yeah, for sure. No, but we have fusion at home. Yeah. Phil, I'm not, what do you say, Philip Stewart? I'm not well versed in this, but I am curious how a long trip to Mars would really take with nuclear electric. I believe the Dawn spacecraft used a different spiral transfer method where the thruster burned for pretty much the whole transfer series, which was months of operation. I wonder if continuous thrust versus regular chemical propulsion, where you coast anyways on interplanetary missions, is negligible. Maybe I'm just crazy. Yes, I think that might be what's going on. Sure. It's not negligible at all. It adds up to crazy speeds. I mean, yeah, you're going to get a really long duration burn, but you could potentially get a shorter duration trip because of your efficiency. Continuous thrust major advantage is you don't have to wait for transfer windows. Yeah, I know what acoustic run trajectories are.
Throttle up.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand that, guys. I know what a Verkristochron trajectory is. I understand all that. The problem is you're not doing that with people on board with 5 newtons of thrust. That's the 5 newtons of thrust could maybe move an ant colony to Mars on a reasonable time scale. Maybe. Maybe. Hey, Sean. Hello, sir. Keep up the good work and keep being awesome. I'm trying. Is nuclear fusion even a possibility in spacecraft? Yes. So will you be running as NASA administrator under the 2028 Jared administration? I'm not sure Jared and I see eye to eye on everything. Not that my word to his is anything. I would believe him over anything that I say. You know? You just have to have enough trust to tip the balance of it being faster, hence the trip estimates. For reference, 5 newtons is enough to push a ping pong ball at roughly 1 G. I'm more of a fan of magnetoplasma drives. Yeah, and I want hyperspace drives, so, I mean... At that rate, it might be better to propel the spacecraft by getting astronauts to fart out the window. Yeah, I mean, guys, once again, nuclear electric could be a thing, and I kind of... You know, like... Splitting hairs aside, like, differences in Rook's policy, like... You know what, man? It's a plan. Okay? It's a plan, and I don't mind it. This is not necessarily what I would be doing if I was administrator. I mean, I would be, I would be very much championing an SLS expansion and refactoring SLS's architecture to not suck complete balls. Sorry. Anyway, why doesn't NASA just develop an Epstein drive? Are they stupid? Yes. Anyway, okay. Are you still starting your company that will reproduce the F1 engine and basically make Saturn V with only 2 stages instead of a 33? Instead, it's 2 stages with a 33-foot fairing. Dude, I still think that's a good idea. Ship watching. That article sounds like advertisement to move into a political role. Just you. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know what that means for the Polaris missions. I'm still holding out hope that the president and Elon kind of made amends and that he might still end up being administrator. That's my gut. That's what my gut's telling me. I'm going to say that gut feeling is based off of more hoping than anything, not necessarily like EJ's intuition on what's going on with the space program. I just hope Elon and Trump kiss and make up and freaking Isaacman gets there. But I don't know, man. So I want to talk to you guys about Slick 37, and I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into the history of Slick 37 here. But first, I thought about this. I thought about not showing this, but I changed my mind. If it mutes the VOD, it mutes the VOD. I don't know, Trey, maybe. and Oppenheimer. But in 38 years, there's only ever been one. Spaceballs? Oh shoot, there goes the planet. Until now.
After 40 years, we asked, what do the fans want? But instead, we're making this movie. May the Schwartz be with you.
Oh man, Mel Brooks has still got it, man. That's really funny. Spaceballs, the sweatshirt. Is that what it said? That's what it says. Oh. Spaceballs 3. The search for Spaceballs 2. We asked the fans what they want, so we're making this movie instead. You still got it, man. That's really funny, man. I love that movie. That movie's so good. Oh. Space News, the T-shirt. I don't care. What did that text say? Hold on, let me see. 38 years ago, there was only one Star Wars trilogy. But since then, there have been a prequel trilogy, a sequel trilogy, a sequel to the prequel, a prequel to the sequel, countless TV spin-offs, a movie spin-off of the TV spin-off, which is both a prequel and a sequel. Not to mention 2 Dunes, 7 Jurassic Parks, 2 Avatars, plus 3 upcoming Avatars, making 5 Avatars, 36 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies with 2 different Robert Downey Jr.'s, DC Comics Universe Attempt 1, DC Attempt 2, an animated Lion King, a live-action animated Lion King, a live-action animated Lion King prequel, 8 Harry Potter movies, a TV series remaking the same 8 Harry Potter movies. A whole streaming service of Star Trek, 7 Alien movies, 2 of which were also Predator movies, not to be mistaken for the 6 Predator movies that are not also Alien movies, 1 Prometheus, which is kind of an Alien movie, 4 Beatles movies, and Oppenheimer. Oh, man. That's awesome. Still funny. Yeah, Fox for sure. Yep. Missed the opportunity to dunk on the Barbie movies. No, Oppenheimer. Oh, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty damn funny. And now, on to something completely different. Okay, anyway. Yeah, Spaceballs 2 was announced. But anyway, here, also this. On to something completely different. Do you think there's going to be any cool footage of the demolition close up? Yeah. I gotta check that out. So Max Evans took this footage. I don't know if you can tell. Otherwise, I'm just messing around, dude. But yeah, just in case. Sorry, I thought it was funny. I'm a horrible person. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, that's Slick 37B. That is the former Delta IV launch complex, and now it's gone. Is that where EFT launched from? EFT1 launched from in 2014? Yep. 37B gone. Yep. What are the what are the towers? So that's a lightning arrestor system. In Florida, there's a lot of lightning, and you don't want that hitting the rocket. So this basically is a lightning rod that has an arrestor system. So if lightning strikes it, it'll strike it as a lightning rod, but it'll shoot it off down an electrical wire off to the sides and not go down the tower and arc to the rocket. So like there was a huge lightning rod up here, and then there was an insulator there, and then above the insulator connected to the lightning rod were a bunch of wires going down in different directions. Most pads down in Florida have this. You're good. All right, cool. So they're lightning towers. This right here is the fixed service structure, and that is the mobile service tower. Oh wait, was the mobile service tower. Unless SLS is out there that the gods bypassed it. Yeah, right. So that marks the end of an era for Slick 37B. It seems mobile. Yeah, that marks the end of an era. So this morning, yeah, here's another shot. This morning they demolished most of Complex 37 here. Oof. This looks like it's taken from Slick 41. Oof. So, why is this happening? This is here. There's a shot, a flyover shot from John Krause. Why is this happening, boss? Why is this happening, boss? Well, the pad was a former Delta IV and Delta IV Heavy launch complex. And the Delta IV rocket was retired by United Launch Alliance. The last launch out of this pad was here. This was the National Reconnaissance Office launch 70. Here's the highlight reel from ULA for that.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. First stage systems, propulsion. Go. Hydraulics. Go. Box. Go. LH2. Go. Op safety manager. Go. ULA safety officer. Go. Vehicle system engineer. Go. Anomaly chief. Go. Range coordinator. Clear to proceed. Launch director.
Launch vehicle is ready to launch.
Mission director. You have permission to launch. Proceeding with the count. Status check. Go Delta. Go NROL 70.
We have ignition. 2, 1. And liftoff of the final United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket, carrying NROL 70 for the National Reconnaissance Office and closing Delta's 6-decade legacy of excellence in space.
I really like Delta, man. I thought it was a really good design, but it's not. I think SLS is technically a Delta rocket.
We have strap-on separation. Disturbances look good. And separation occurred right as expected.
RL-10B2 nozzle.
With the successful separation of the NROL-70 spacecraft, this concludes the final commentary for the Delta product line.
So, yeah, that was the, excuse me, that's Complex 37. For the last, basically about 20 years, Slick 37B has been the home to Delta and the Delta IV Heavy rockets down at the Cape. Now, why? Why are they demolishing it? Well, one, the Delta program is no more. That's it. Technically, I still think that SLS is Delta 5. I think because SLS Block 1 has a Delta-derived upper stage, the ICPS, I would call SLS a Delta series rocket. And before you look at me funny, hey, from Delta 3 to Delta 4, they saw it fit to keep the naming convention, and the only thing that in common that Delta 3 and Delta 4 have is the upper stage. So if keeping the same upper stage is enough to have the right nomenclature, to keep the naming nomenclature, SLS has a Delta-derived upper stage. SLS is Delta 5. And Vulcan is Atlas 6. You're wrong if you think differently. I believe Boeing internally called SLS Delta 10,000, because it is. Same manufacturer. That's right, Snake. Yep. All right, can't see me. Yep. And that's why Vulcan is Atlas 6. That's right. Is SLS ULA, though? No. Well, ULA makes the upper stage for it, Martin. But anyway, I digress. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Complex 37 and what it is and what it was built for. So, also, we have some other flyovers from Max. Flyover picture from Max right there. Oy. So Mercury is the shuttle. Here we go. But I digest. I am digesting. I just whooped some pizza right before Space News. So, oofta. I wonder if the launch frame, was the launch frame still there? Hold on, let me see if we can see Max's footage. But it's hard to tell from his footage. I just want to see something real quick. You can't really tell. Anyway. So, Slick 37... Ugh, I'm not going to pause that halfway through. What kind of pizza? Detroit-style pizza. Pepperoni. So, Slick 37, back in the day, was built for the Apollo program. Now, why? Why was it built for the Apollo program? Well, Slick 37, its primary thing was to test the Saturn 1B rocket right there. That's Slick 37B. That's the original Slick 37B. Okay? That is the original one. No methane, don't, no, bad. What happened to the damn pad? They demolished it. So Delta and Atlas still live. Hell yes. Why don't more people talk about that? I don't know. I don't know, man. Now, when I say it was built for the Apollo program and built to test Saturn 1B, that is what it ended up doing. Slick 37 hosted 6 launches in the 1960s with Saturn 1B missions. All right. Now, I want to be very clear. It was explicitly testing Saturn 1B and not Saturn 1s. Now, why? Why would they build this pad and only use it 6 times? Well, first of all, NASA. That's why. Second of all, NASA figured out better ways to launch Saturn 1Bs. They could do it out of the VAB with the milk stool, but that's another story. So they built out this entire twin pad complex. Slick 37 is a lot of I don't know if you guys know. Slick 37 is a 2-pad launch complex. They never made it a 2-pad launch complex. Well, they kind of did, but they kind of didn't. So if we look at the Cape, there's 39B, 39A, 40, 41, and 40. And then right here, right below 40, there is Complex 37. Complex 37 basically is all of this. It's all of this area right here. Now, once again, why? Why build a twin Saturn 1B complex? Didn't they retool LC-34 for Saturn 1B? Yeah. A Saturn 1B did launch from Complex 34 here. It was the Apollo 7 mission in 1968. Yep. Then after that, this was used to test the first lunar landers, albeit in low Earth orbit, and it was used to test a bunch of other systems with different Apollo payloads, and also testing the Saturn 1B in general. Now, why? Why build 2 pads? Well, you can see here, actually, in this footage, that there is one pad right there. See the diamond right there? The pedestal, a launch pedestal, would be right next to it, like in this picture. The diamond had the fixed service structure on top of it, right? And then there was a gigantic pedestal right here holding the rocket with a diverter. Now, Slick 37, like I said, is a twin pad complex. That is how this works. That is how the pad was originally set up. Why is it such a big complex? 2 pads. Now, it originally had Pad B and Pad A. All right? Pad B and Pad A were both serviced by one mobile service tower that could actually move back and forth between the pads. So you could build a rocket over here while one was launching over here. Or the service tower could go into the center. You could tee up one rocket here, tee up another rocket here, put that in the center, and then launch 2 rockets in near quick succession. Now, why? Why did they do that? Why did they do that when the Saturn V exists? Anybody know? I'll tell you. They did that in case the Saturn V didn't work. That's right. It was insurance for the space program in case the Saturn V in case they couldn't get super heavy launch figured out. So, think about this for a second. Apollo, when they first developed, when von Braun and NASA first started developing its stakeholder expectations and its systems architecture, came up with the idea of launching everything on one big rocket. Launch everything on one big rocket. That is the most expedient way to get this done. But they did toy with other ideas. The Apollo program, the actual Apollo program, utilized what's called an LOR style architecture, Lunar Orbit Rendezvous, meaning you send everything in one shot. You have your CSM and your lander. They separate from each other. The lander goes down to the surface, comes back up, re-rendezvous in lunar orbit, and then everybody goes home. That was ultimately the architecture that got the United States to the moon 6 times out of 7 attempts. It was Apollo 13, but we don't talk about that. I mean, we kind of do, but you get the idea. Now, Lunar Orbit Rendezvous, or LOR for short, was the preferred method, and that was the way that worked. But there was another way to do it. EOR is what it's called, Earth Orbit Rendezvous. Earth Orbit Rendezvous was there. It was an architecture that they developed in case the Saturn V didn't work. If they tried to get it to work and it blew up or something, didn't work, right? So you have to do it before the decade is out. So what's EOR? Well, if you think about what a Saturn V launches, Saturn V has the command service module with 3 people on board, the LEM right below it, the lunar excursion module, and then an upper stage. So you have that's what a Saturn V puts into space to get out to the moon. All right? Technically, there was also the direct ascent option. Yeah, but that was never done or thought was a good idea. So the Earth Orbit Rendezvous would have required 3 Saturn 1Bs to launch in pretty quick succession. You'd need a Saturn 1B to put the people up there, a Saturn 1B to put the lander up there, and then a Saturn 1B to bring the transfer stage up there, right? So that's what these pads were built for. In case the Saturn V didn't work, you would need 3 launches of a Saturn 1B in very quick succession. Crew launch from Complex 34, lander launch from 37B, and transfer stage launch from 37A. I mean, the crew launch pad would be over here. 34 had a crew access arm. These pads, as far as I can tell, 37A and B did not have a crew access arm, okay? So there would have been cargo Saturn 1Bs from here, crew Saturn 1B from here, in case the Saturn V wasn't ready or it didn't work or anything like that, because they didn't know if you could make a rocket that big. So they hedged their bets. That's why Slick 37B, or Slick 37 was built in the first place. Now, each pad has a common fueling area. You have your hydrogen over here on the north side of the pad and liquid oxygen over here on the south side of the pad. There's also an RP1 facility next to the hydrogen facility right here. So all your fuels are over here and all your oxidizers are over here, and they could fuel either pad, right? And then you had a blockhouse. This was still in the time in the mid to late 60s where you'd have people actually at the launch site to send it, right? So I assume they built all this out in case the Saturn V failed. Obviously, it didn't. Easy to say in hindsight, I suppose, but why didn't they wait until they knew if the Saturn V was going to work or not before spending money on a new pad? You wouldn't have, because if waiting to see if the Saturn V would have worked meant they wouldn't have been able to build a pad fast enough by 1970, Badger. Slick 37 came online in 1965, if I'm remembering correctly. Actually, here, check this out. 64. So the first launch out of Slick 37 was the SA-5 mission. And it was the first S4 second stage launch. And then AS-101, which was the first boilerplate CSM in May of 64. September 18th, 1964 was another boilerplate mission. February 65, you have AS-103 with Pegasus 1 and another boilerplate CSM. Pegasus satellite studied micrometeorite impacts. And then July 5th, good day, 1966, you had a Saturn 1B. Okay, so it was made for Saturn 1. I didn't say that exactly right, but that's good. Which tested the S4B second stage. And then on the 22nd of January, 1968, you have Apollo 5, which was the first uncrewed test of the lunar module. I think by this day, by 66, they kind of figured that the Saturn V would be working. Pegasus sats are really cool. Absolutely. So it was built for Saturn 1 as first. Sorry, excuse me, I misspoke there. But yeah, it was built for Saturn 1B to make sure that, if they couldn't do the lunar orbit rendezvous, they would fulfill President Kennedy's request to make sure that they had Earth orbit rendezvous as a backup plan. That's why they made these pads. Can we watch the Apollo 4 footage? Yeah, they also built the Saturn 1B way before the Saturn V. The Apollo 4 was the first test of the Saturn V in 1966. And then Apollo 6 was in 1967. And then Apollo 8 was in 1968. Those are the first 3 launches of the Saturn V. So I think that they were they were hedging their bets here. Now, after January 22nd, 1968, after the Apollo 5 mission, they got rid of it. They abandoned the pad. Facility was deactivated in 1972 following the conclusion of the Apollo program. Proposals were drawn resuming Saturn 1B launches from 37 and 34 as part of the Apollo applications program, but NASA instead opted to modify 39B for that role. LC-37 would sit dormant for the next 30 years. First mission with humans outside a low Earth orbit, Penta, yes. So, Slick 37 lay dormant basically until the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, Boeing picked it up. Boeing picked it up for their Delta IV style rocket. They needed a bigger pad because Delta IV was Boeing and McDonnell Douglas's, McDonnell Douglas was part of Boeing at that time, or McDonnell Douglas was wearing a Boeing skin suit, which is still what Boeing is to this day. Yeah, when McDonnell Douglas and Boeing merged in 1997, McDonnell Douglas basically took Boeing's name, or basically skinned Boeing alive and took Boeing's skin and has been wearing it as a skin suit around since. Yeah, you wanted that image in your head, but you wonder why they suck nowadays. It's because they're McDonnell Douglas. But I digress. Anyway, so they needed a pad for their new Delta IV. Delta IV was an extremely big, an extreme scale up in rocket design from the other Delta rockets. The Delta rocket family here, you could see the big difference here. So Delta II was basically not a small sat launcher, but it was a light to medium duty. Delta III had a fully cryogenic upper stage, a hydrogen upper stage with a shortened Delta II core with a bunch of SRBs behind it. It launched 3 times, and then it never launched again because it was a piece of junk. And then after that, they wanted to scale up to the Delta IV. You can see Delta IV is a little bit bigger, so they needed a bigger pad. So they took 37B, or they took Complex 37, and they just kind of put a Delta pad over here. They took all the cool stuff with the Apollo architecture, the twin pad launch complex, twin fueling, etc., and ignored all of that and just built something new over here in very, very nice 90s fashion. You know, just whatever. You don't need any of that. But they did use the fueling complex because Delta IV was a fully cryogenic rocket. Hydrolox first stage, Hydrolox second stage. So you had hydrogen and oxygen to be able to fill it. It was also scalable because you could launch it in a Delta IV single stick configuration. You could launch it with attachable SRBs, or you could launch it in a heavy format. They also built out a 3-bay horizontal integration facility here to allow 3 Delta stacks to be able to be built all at once. This was done in anticipation of a really, really high demand launch market in the 2000s. Everybody thought that commercial was going to be the way to launch payloads into space, and the commercial market was going to overtake NASA in the late 90s, early 2000s. The reason why is because a lot of tech companies that made money during the dot-com boom transitioned to launching satellites into space. A lot of tech companies transitioned to launching satellites into space for better data transfer so they could make more money. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And then the dot-com bubble burst in the late 90s, instantly collapsing the launch market. It instantly collapsed the launch market, that so much to the point that this rocket and launch complex that was designed to launch very rapidly and very quickly, anticipating high demand of launches, was really only relegated to maybe one launch a year. And you wonder why Delta IV carried a heavy price tag. So that's what happens when you launch once a year, when you tool out an architecture to launch like 60 times a year. And then you launch once, price goes up because you're paying for maintenance. So the commercial market collapsed. It collapsed, basically retiring Atlas III and Lockheed, retiring Atlas III, retiring Delta III, and basically consolidating the launch market down to Delta II, Delta IV, and Atlas V. Now, here's the thing. The launch market collapsed so ridiculously hard that Boeing and Lockheed were basically planning on pulling out of building rockets altogether. There was no profitability in it. And they also were spying on each other, spying on each other's rocket designs, but that's another story. The government stepped in, and in 2005, formed United Launch Alliance, which is a joint venture between Lockheed and Boeing, so the Department of Defense could have assured access into space. Yeah, that's how ULA came to be a thing. Now, what does that have to do with Pad 37? Well, Pad 37 basically relegated the Delta rocket to only Department of Defense missions. Now, throughout the 2000s, right? The first launch was the Eutelsat W5 in November 2002. And throughout the 2000s, basically all the way up until the 2020s, the rocket was pretty much relegated to Department of Defense missions and some NASA missions like Parker Solar. I saw that Delta IV Heavy up close. Yeah, I flexed. I don't care. The reason why is because it was too expensive. They also had some pretty high profile missions like EFT-1, where Delta IV launched a boilerplate Orion spacecraft into a extremely eccentric orbit, which was the first test of an Orion capsule in space, or Orion capsule. First test of an Orion capsule in space, and basically the first Artemis mission. Now, Delta IV did have a pretty storied career. How many times did it launch out of there? 43 times over 20 years, which would be really good if something like Falcon 9 didn't exist to make it look totally ridiculous. Once again, you'd be hard pressed to get 2 launches a year out of this thing. And by the time they got into the 2020s, it was less than 1 launch a year. Good old Artemis 0. So, that brings the Slick 37B to today. Now, I'm fairly confident that had the dot-com bubble not burst, that they probably would have built another Delta pad over here. You can kind of see that at some point there were plans for that. Like, it looks like they would have built a mirror image over here now that I'm looking at it, because see all this stuff right here? It looks like they had thought about it. You can kind of see the same shape. Because ULA and Boeing always called this Slick 37B. Despite it being a dual pad launch complex, there's only been one operational pad at this launch site since Delta IV was made. So, I don't know. Maybe they would have expanded it, maybe not. Who knows? Now, there's your little bit of a deep dive into Slick 37. It was originally built as a backup to the Apollo program, then it was abandoned, and then it was taken over by Commercial Space, and then that folded, and then ULA took it. Well, ULA was given ownership of it, and it's basically been operating off and on, basically to the tune of like 1 to 2 launches a year for the Delta rocket. basically until the last launch, which was last year, the L-70 mission in April of 2024. Now, is this the end of an era for Slick 37? Is it over? Is it so Jover, or are we back? Or are we so Barack right now? You tell me. No, we are so back. The reason why they're getting rid of all the Delta architecture here is, in case you've been living under a rock, SpaceX was given the lease to Slick 37, not Slick 37B, the entire launch complex. They were given the lease to it, and it seems like they've been carrying out renovations, if that's what you want to call that. They've been carrying out renovations as soon as they got the lease. Now, SpaceX has introduced a draft environmental assessment, or draft environmental impact study. The draft environmental impact study converts Slick 37, one, back to a twin pad launch complex, reject modernity, embrace tradition, and two, into a dual pad launch complex for Starship. So this is a big day, dudes. This is a big day.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
So it does kind of suck seeing Delta 4 basically be erased. But for Starship, I'll take that trade. That's fine with me. Also, I want to be very honest with you. I hate this. I've always hated it. Now that this whole pad is gone, I can say this. I hate Complex 37B. I think it's ridiculous looking. I really something about my spaceflight fantism is just like you didn't use the Apollo stuff. You just haphazardly placed this huge pile of crap over here, and you didn't even use the pad. You could have just built this right here on a pedestal instead of on this stupid big dirt mound. It's stupid and it looks dumb and I hate it. It's just that you got this gigantic pad complex and you built this crock of crap over here. Why are you in your racing rig? Because we're playing Summer Car tonight. Again. I hope they keep the blockhouse. Me too. Me too. They should keep the blockhouse. Could Slick 37 also support a Falcon pad with 2 Starship pads? Goatman, I had theorized that they would, but those plans don't look like there's any room for any type of Starship pad. Let it out. It's over. Good. I hate this. I hate this pad. I've always hated it. It's ridiculous looking. I can't stand it. Slick 6 is a superior Delta launch facility, okay? How do you really feel about this? I hate it a lot. RC, I never said this was irrational hatred, okay? Everybody's allowed to hate something irrationally. Just one thing, okay? One thing. I can't stand it, dude. I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, you know, Boeing took this twin pad complex and they're like, "No, we're not going to use any of this. We're just going to build this over here. It's fine. Whatever." Like, They didn't even get rid of the old Apollo launch pad, man. They just kept it there. And they just had it there looking, they just basically kept it on life support, looking longingly at every time the rocket launched. This pad just is there. It's like, wait, I'm the real Slick 37B. No, I am. No, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it a lot. I hate it a lot. I hate it so much. It's terrible. Even though it's probably not possible, it would have cracked me up seeing SpaceX move the MST down the street to 39A for Falcon Heavy. Kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah, Phil. Right? I repeat, will the real Slick 37B please stand up? We're going to have a problem here. No, I don't know. It did its job as Delta, but dude, it's like just sitting over here on the side. And like I said, I think it was done. I think Boeing was going to make this a dual pad launch complex. I think they were, but they never got around to it because the market collapsed. Like, if you look it speaks to reason that they would, build another one right here, identically to it. I'm just kind of going back in the timeline. You could see that A was right there. That was before Delta even. It's gone now. You can let it go. Good. It's looking good. It looks stupid. This is the superior architecture, Paul. It's superior in all ways. Single mobile service tower moving left and right between pads. It's superior. It's superior. Why couldn't you just do that? Do that? No, you had to be Quaid. So I'm not. A lot of people are sad about this. I ain't sad. Frick that thing. It's stupid. Stupid. Good. Now, to be very clear, SpaceX is not utilizing the Apollo pads from what I can tell either. It looks like they're just going to bulldoze right over them, which does suck, to be honest. But, hey, at least we got we're going to get a twin pad complex out of there. Dual Starship pads. And I don't care what SpaceX calls them. It's Slick 37A and Slick 37B. I'm never not calling it that, okay? It's reject modernity, embrace tradition. Oh, so it's fine for SpaceX to do it. No. If Boeing had gone in there and demolished everything and just built a road that goes right here to a singular Delta pad, I would have been fine with it. It would be fine. That'd be fine. No, they didn't even get rid of the original Apollo stuff. They just crudely pasted their pad on the side. What is that family picture? What is that family picture, Cal? You just crudely pasted your face over mine. Yeah. I don't think you realize the consequences. Cal, I don't think you realize the implication of your actions. What's implication mean? It means that we are no longer friends. Why? What do you mean, why? You're wrecking my life. Hey, look, you lost your wife, you lost your house. Don't throw out your best friend because of your anger. Delta 4 Slick 37B, probably. Seldoon, I don't know if they're going to tear down the blockhouse. I don't think they are. It looks like the road deliberately goes around the thing. Correction, Slick 6 was a good Delta pad. Slick 6 was a better shuttle pad, but, What was that white circle? That's the blockhouse. This is where launch control was when the Apollo program was around. When the Apollo program was around, a bunch of launch controllers just drove their cars up here, parked in this parking lot. You had about 20 to 30 guys in here, and you launched the rocket from right there. It has to actually launch a shuttle to be a shuttle pad. Yeah, exactly. There can be no shake and bake when you just crudely paste your launch pad over another one. Right? This is the Magic Man, and this is El Diablo. El Diablo is better. It's like Mexican for a fighting chicken or something. Okay? This is ridiculous. You just crudely pasted your launch pad over mine. Have you ever been to the blockhouse at LC 26? 26? That's down here. This guy, right? Yes, I've been in there. Yeah, I've seen all this. I've seen the only Delta 4 in existence. That is the original Delta 4 CBC. That was their test mule. Back in 2011, I went on the USA tour of the Cape facilities. The blockhouse was quite nice. Pretty cool. I'd watch a rocket launch from there. It's so crunchy now. I know, Neymar. I've heard about it. Yeah, not cool. It was pretty rough in 2015 when I saw it. But anyway. It's still there. Is it for sale? I don't know. I have an idea. We acquire the site and launch it. Well, Graham, acquiring the Delta 4 site to launch Delta 4s from Slick 37B is probably not happening. It's probably not happening anytime soon. Hi, Pwn Sister. If you start ripping everything down and changing names, you're going to come at him like Spider Monkey. Oh, yeah, Sean, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. It'd be cool if they took down the White Room from there and put it at 26. This didn't have any crew access on. If you're talking about the one in the tower, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, so Slick 37B. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning. The reason why is not only is SpaceX looking to make this a twin Starship launch pad, but from what I understand from their proposal here, Starship Super Heavy launch landing and support infrastructure. Not only is it going to have 2 launch towers, but it will have 2 concrete landing pads, approximately 225 feet in diameter, could be construction on site if space allows within Slick 37. 2 catch towers, similar to the integration towers, would be placed on the landing pads. You saw the nicest 80s Bronco in your neighborhood during my run, and I thought about you. It was a deep green color. Very nice. Highland Green is the name of that. Pwn Sister. Yep. We can build it. We have the technology. No. I want this launch pad. We don't need to rebuild any Delta 4 stuff at all. So 4 towers. That certainly is what it seems like, Geek. Yeah. You're not only going to get double launch pads, but 2 towers. And if I had to guess, if one of their pads is like right here and the other one is over here and the fuel farm is right here, that your catch towers are probably going to be right in line. That I have seen renders of that with double catch towers, basically exactly where the mobile service tower and Slick 37A is. So 1 catch tower here and 1 catch tower here. Highland Green. Wow, you're a nerd. One of my favorite Ford colors, dude. Now, I already know that Zach will have opinions on the catch towers. My guess, guys, is that those catch towers will eventually turn into launch pads. Eventually. Or hear me out, 4-pad complex. Hawk collects! Yes! My guy! That's what I'm talking about, man. So, like I said, this ain't the end of Slick 37. Oh, I think Slick 37 is going to be the new hotness very soon. Very soon. Time for some flank Lloyd Wright Gattaca launch complex. Gattaca. Wait. A starship and 3 tankers, rapid fire. Welcome to what NASA should have done with Apollo. Yes. Hey, Cosmic Impulse. Is that the pad that ULA lit the lawn on fire after every launch? Yes, it is. yeah, it is. Yeah, very, very nice form of brush fire control. Actually, yeah, I'm wondering if we could see it on the map. Yeah, see, You see how there's a lot of trees right here, and then you see how there's no trees right here? You see how there's really nothing right here? Delta launches were so infrequent that the Florida brush basically grew over, right? You could actually see the vegetation, right? They were so damn infrequent that because it's Florida, everything started growing, right? And then you could see right after a launch that it basically burned out everything in this area. See the scorch marks? So quad launches and quad catching. Yeah. I mean, Geek, I'm looking at this. I mean, look at the complex, dude. So I have some questions about this because we know that Slick 37 is a big piece of property. We're talking something, this is the size of 39A. Now, look, see how, you got to remember, it goes all the way back here to the horizontal integration facility. Now, I have to wonder, what the heck is SpaceX doing with the triple HIF that's right here? This is what I originally thought. This is the reason, that building right there is the reason why I originally thought that Falcon 9 would move to Slick 37B and Starship would take over operations at 39A. That's the reason why I thought that, because if you wanted to make a double Falcon pad, well, there you go. You have two HIFs already there and ready to go. You could just make a crawlerway of sorts that goes all basically here to both of the launch pads, and then you're fine. There you go. You just make a road that goes right there to move the transporter erector. Make the road split right here and go to Slick 37A right there. Double Falcon pad complex. You have plenty of space for landing pads over here or over here or over here, right? But now that we know, and we've had this environmental impact, that ended up being wrong. But now that we know and had an EIS here, right? We know that it's for Starship. Curious. So the black line represents the parcel of land that Slick 37 is on. That's the entire Slick 37 complex. Now, do you notice something here? You notice something? The red line is the construction area. Gray is the air separator. There's the Delta substation. That's the power station. Launch pads sap up a lot of power. You need a lot of energy to launch a rocket. Fun fact. Now look. What are you doing down here? What is the HIF going to be used for? Something interesting here. Now, once again, what about over here? There's plenty of extra space here. Starship storage bay. Maybe. So, Toaster Chip, how are they getting the ship's boosters from Roberts Road to Slick 37? Look what's highlighted in red, particularly right here. Old A1A and Samuel Phillips Parkway. Those are highlighted in red. Those roads both go north. Old A1A is right here, and Sam Phillips is over here. It looks like SpaceX is upgrading the road infrastructure here for Starship, because the only way Starships can get out the only way they can really get out to here is, well, actually, there's two ways that they could theoretically get here. One is if you're coming from Roberts Road is over here. It's right here. This is where SpaceX is building their Gigabay and their Star Factory. It's this parcel of land. If you're going to do that, the only way to get out there is follow the 39A crawlerway right here. See it? This road. That road is heavy enough to move a Starship and a super heavy booster out there. And at 39A, you take a right at the HIF, right? And if you notice, this road has these weird looking shoulders on it. It has a weird looking shoulder on it because the road was very recently redone with a thicker subgrade to take heavier stuff. And the bridge here was renovated to be able to transport heavy vehicles across it without it collapsing. And then, look, you have a radiused road right here. See that? Telltale sign of something big moving down this road. And that right away goes past pad 40 right there and leads directly, that was 41, directly to old A1A. So they're going to be upgrading that. They're going to be upgrading all the road infrastructure around here. But, Tozer, what if they weren't moving stuff? What if they were, the EIS calls for them moving starships horizontally that were assembled in Boca Chica with a breakover device, moving them horizontally and getting them to the Cape. If you were doing this by a boat, you could drop off a starship at the turning basin right here, or a super heavy. You drop it at the turning basin, and the turning basin would lead right to the crawlerway road, so same route, right? How many miles is that? Oh, that's like from Roberts Road all the way over here. I don't know, 10 miles. Or, now check this out, another thing. You see how the red goes past the Delta substation and it goes all the way down to here? That's complex 34 over there. Right, it goes all the way down this way. This road is already has a heavy subgrade. This road is already upgraded. You can tell because there's a lot of cleared land around. Now that road leads down to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station kind of proper. This is the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station industrial site. Well, I don't know if it's called that, but at the very end of the row of hangars here, you have hangar AF. Hangar AF was a solid rocket motor recovery and processing facility for the SRBs from the shuttle program. That's hangar AF right there. Cool thing about hangar AF is because in order to receive the SRBs, you need a heavy dock. A heavy dock with a heavy subgraded road designed for moving heavy things attached to Samuel C. Phillips Highway, which leads right to Slick 37. Starships could be dropped off here at the old SRB processing and recovery area. Totally doable. Couldn't be any more hangar. That's hangar AF. There's also hangar S. There's hangar AE. There's hangar M. There's the stealth hangar. There's hangar N. E. U. There's hangar K, J, I, E. Are you going to the mall later? That's what I'm asking. H, G, TV. Yeah, there's a lot of hangars. You get the idea. Hangar F, you're a gimp. There is a hangar X. I ain't saying where it is, though. You're going to have to find it. I wonder who's using that one. Anyway, moving on. So you could drop them right here. That's a heavy dock. It was dredged out during the shuttle program, and it was built during the shuttle program in the late 70s. And they could drop starships down here. That would make a lot more sense than driving them. I could see them going around and making a whole new route just to save time if they want multiple times a day. Well, Tozer, that's kind of where what I'm wondering here. And I guess that kind of does it for Slick 37, the Slick 37 deep dive right there, or at least a relatively deep dive. Sweck had a 30-month resub 20 minutes ago. Thank you. Ow. What the heck is that noise? Why did the background music just start playing out of the blue there? I did not click on that at all. It's ghosts. Is there a hangar 18? Yeah, but it's not at this site. You know what I'm talking about? It's not at this site. It's at another site. What site? Don't know. See, I'm wondering what this triangle is for. They're clearly putting an air separator unit in there, right? How long until they start building starships at the Cape? Probably late next year, Tycon. They have to build the entire factory. They're starting from scratch over there. So I'm wondering what this triangle is here for. So if we know that there's going to be a launch pad here, there's going to be a launch pad here, 2 catch towers here with the potential for more pads, right? I wonder what they're going to do over here. What's this area supposed to be? There's a lot of empty space here, you know, and then there's a lot more empty space down here. What are they going to do with the horizontal integration facility? The triangle's for triangulation. I'm not sure if it's for that. I think it's for the square hole. Why don't they have rocket manufacturing right next to KSC? What? Who? The build rockets in Alabama. Who builds rockets in Alabama? Who are you talking about? Build more pads in the triangle? I don't know if you'd want to build one that close to the air separator tray, but I'm thinking probably, yeah. I think he's talking about ULA. NASA, ULA, SpaceX. ULA makes Vulcan rockets in Decatur, Alabama. They do that because the first stage engines are also, they're made in Huntsville. They're made down the street. ULA is very horizontally integrated, which is ironic because they vertically integrate rockets. But SpaceX is building out. So ULA doesn't use Slick 37 anymore, Phone Sister. It's SpaceX has the lease to that pad complex now. Moreover, SpaceX builds their starships in Texas. Right now they build them in Boca Chica. That's the only place. But SpaceX is building quite actually a copy of the Boca Chica factory. They're building another star factory at the Cape down the street from the VAB. And it will have a gigabay that's about 2/3 the size of the VAB. And that's down the street from Blue Origin's gigantic facility where they build New Glenns. Also huge. Look at the legend. Red lines are construction lines. Yeah. See, that's what I'm wondering, guys. That's what I'm getting at. So I know that people are going to look at me funny. And you have your air separator unit right here for liquid oxygen. And you have a gigantic triangle right here. And they're beefing up the road over here when they're already beefing up that road over there. What are you doing down here? Are they going to build more pads down here? My guess would be yes. Yes, they are. I think they will build more pads down there. I think I think that Slick 37 will have 5 to 6 pads when it's all said and done here. No way that SpaceX is pulling that off. I've been to KSC. I've been to the KSC VAB just a year ago in December, and it's massive. I really don't think people understand what SpaceX has teed up, dude. I don't think people understand what's coming. And I'll be honest with you, I hate people that vague post like that on social media and stuff. Let me explain. SpaceX has called for a massive scale up in the Starship program, okay? Elon's called for a massive scale up. The draft environmental assessment for Slick 37 calls for 76 launches a year from Slick 37. 300 Starship activities maximum throughout the year. That's integration, road closures, movement, launches, landings, catch attempts. Why would they do that if they didn't plan on scaling? Now, what's the next question? Yeah, okay, I know that people that are skeptical will be like, okay, how they're going to do that? Well, they're building they have one factory almost operational, the one in Boca Chica. And then they're building a second one, a duplicate that's actually bigger. The one at Roberts Road, down the street from Slick 37. These gigabays that they're working on have up to 27 processing positions for building rockets. 27 stations, so to speak. The current megabay can hold 6 starships, up to 6 starships in Megabay 2, and up to 6 super heavies in Megabay 1. But if you do 6, you're gonna have a hard time moving them out. It's really more like 3 if you're optimizing for ideal movement. The Gigabay, which we have the plans for, SpaceX has showed their plans for it pretty much, calls for 27 processing stations. And a factory to back it up that's probably going to be one of the biggest factories around. We're talking about factories here that are as big as the Everett plant, Boeing's Everett plant in Everett, Washington. The plant that was originally conceived as the place to build the 747. And it did until last year. The Gigabay is huge, Cake. SpaceX is planning to scale massively. They're building the complexes for it. They're scaling their propulsion systems. I mean, I don't know if you've seen SpaceX's footage of just warehouses full of Raptor engines. Now, keep in mind they're Raptor 2s, I understand. You're going to need to scale Raptor 3, but I think they're working on that. There's a reason why Raptor 3 is so ridiculously simple and how it's so ridiculously, seemingly not complicated. The reason why is that Raptor 3 is an engine that's literally designed to be mass produced on a scale that makes the Merlin engine look like a shuttle engine. All right. Now, if you're still skeptical about this, where are you going to get the money to do all this? Where are you going to get the money to do it? Starlink is funding the entire Starship development program at this point. That's right from Elon. He said that the other day. The Starship program's funding and revenue from Starlink, because SpaceX is a private company, you don't have to pay shareholders or anything. Because SpaceX is a private company, the revenue is almost as much as SLS's budget. So I remember a lot of people saying back in the day, man, imagine what SpaceX could do with SLS's budget. Well, there's your answer right there. This is putting every other rocket maker to shame. There is a reason why I speak very highly of SpaceX, because they get it. They understand. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I hate other launch providers. I like every launch provider. But also at the same time, the scope of what SpaceX is trying to do is coming into focus. And I just explained to you what we know, right? Like, that's public information. We know that SpaceX is ramping. They are going to ramp 76 Starship launches a year. 76 launches. That is almost 2 launches a week. Calling SpaceX 10 years ahead of everybody else is an understatement. This is the point that I was trying to make the other day, Space Ghost, and I don't think I made it very well. Dude, 76 launches? Now, I'm thinking about the logistics of this, right? 76 launches. You're going to need 2 launches a day. All right. You're obviously not going to be able to integrate and transfer. Like, you're not going to be stacking one when one launches. So there has to be some downtime to the pad. So what's the way to solve that problem? Right? The way to solve that problem is to put a lot out on pads all at once and send it all in very rapid succession, which also jives very, very much with SpaceX's strategy, their refueling strategy and their tanker strategy for HLS and for getting Starships further into space. They're basically going to need to roll a train of freaking super heavies out there, have all the super heavies get stacked, roll a train of Starships right behind him, stack all the Starships, send 1, send 2, send 3, send 4, send 5. Right? Think of it like loading missiles on an airplane. You load them all at once, and then when the plane's flying, you fire 1, and you fire 2, then you fire 3, then you fire 4. Right? In order to do that, you're going to need more than 2 pads. Right? Because you're not going to have a super heavy with people. Right? You're not going to have a super heavy with people sitting down here while a Starship launches. That would kill you, being that close. Starship is really loud. I've heard it. It's loud. How many Falcon launches do they do on a single pad per year? About that, Toothless, about that. But you got to remember, landing and recovery operations for reusable Falcon infrastructure, fairings, first stage, Dragon capsules is not done on site. The launch pads are just launch pads. This is a launch and landing facility. This is a spaceport, dudes. This is a spaceport. This is Star Wars. Like how a major airport, would have multiple runways. This is a spaceport. It is a launch and landing facility. Right? You're not launching 76 times a year with 2 pads. You're not doing that. You need way more than that. You need 6. You'd need, and they want to do catch towers, right? To try and divest, launch from landing operations on one pad. I personally don't think they're going to use catch towers. Why build a catch tower? I kind of agree with Zach, but also I would build catching towers with the explicit intention of converting it to a full launch pad eventually. And we know they want to build at least 2 pads in their EIS. They want to build 2 pads and they want to build 2 catch towers. And that means eventually Slick 37 will have 4 Starship launch pads down in a row right here. That might be enough. Might be enough. It's possible. How much LOX and other fuels will that require on your near side for the launch cadence? There's a reason why they're building an air separator over here. And Andrew, that's my other question about this entire triangular area. What are you building down there? If it was me, I'd probably build a gigantic fueling, I would probably build a huge, LOX plant, right? And then some type of methane facility here, right? And then I would pipe them directly down Beach Road to this over here. There's a GSE support building right there, right? And they're doing construction on that road. So I'd put a LOX pipe that goes right to the storage area. The Coronet Spaceport on Corellia. Doctor selling buff and carabiners, tumbling for tips. Dude. Star Wars Galaxies reference, Mayor. Also Coronet. Nice. It is called Coronet, isn't it? Think about this, guys. You want to do something like this? That fuel farm might not even be enough. You'd need a row of pads, like 5 or 6 pads going all the way down this row right here. But then again, you got to keep in mind they have 39A too. And there's a reason why I think 39A is going to have another pad, is going to have 2 pads, or at least a catch tower that will eventually be turned into a pad. So let's think about this. 4 pads at 37, right? 4 of them. 2 pads at 39. A launch and a catch tower at 39A. Oh yeah. There's going to be 6 pads. They might not all be at Slick 37, but there's going to be a lot. The fact that we are even talking about this is absurd. That is ridiculous. So, you know, for anybody that's bumming about Slick 37B and Delta 4 going the way of the dodo, I am kind of bummed about Delta 4 going the way of the dodo, but if it was going to retire and all of its buildings were going to be demolished, there's very few scenarios where I'd be like, all right, that's fine. This is one of them. Hear me out. Crew pads at 39A and uncrewed pads at 37. If they already said they want to launch every day from a pad, 76 times a year isn't too much on one pad. I think we could see 300 plus launches a year from Slick 37 with 4 to 6 pads. Trade that. Here. Look. I gotta find it. I gotta see if it's here. Overall, this calls for 300 Starship activities from the Cape or something ridiculous. I'd have to find it. I was reading this the other day. It calls for an insane amount of activity from the Cape. Oh. Hang on. I just noticed something. This part I didn't read. 1.51, launch sites eliminated. Following launch sites have been eliminated from further analysis in the EIS. The rationale for their elimination is provided in the following sections. Slick 40. Falcon 9's there. Slick 50. Slick 50 is an undeveloped plot on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station located between Slick 40 and Slick 37. In the range of the future Cape Canaveral Space Force Station district plans, USSF 2022A, Space Force identifies the need for a new medium or heavy lift launch site in the area. However, Slick 50 is currently green space and does not contain any launch infrastructure. Slick 50 is also located in an area with high potential for endangered species and archaeological sites. The development of Slick 50 is less ideal than the redevelopment of an existing space launch complex and does not meet Section E criteria. Where would you build your test site for all of this? Do you test airplanes at an airport, or do you test airplanes on a test stand? The launch pads are the test stands, dude. It's always been that way, Trapo. Now, okay, I want to read more about that in a second, but think about this for a moment, okay? Bear with me here. SpaceX wants to launch Starship hundreds of times a year. They want to launch Starship as much as Falcon 9 right now. Now, if you think about all that, right? You know, because you're asking about test sites. And what did I say? The best test site is the launch. Think about how little of a blip Flight 7, 8, and 9 are going to be when we're at Starship Flight 300 by the end of this decade. Do you remember when I said 7, 8, and 9 having all these problems is not a big deal? SpaceX needs to step on the gas. It was because I understood the scale that SpaceX is trying to get at. That's why I said just All right, send another one. Well, will ships be static fired in Florida? Launchpad. Launchpad, baby. Maybe we see a test stand at 39A or something like Massey's for starships. Dual launch pads all over the place. Massive cluster of pads. And I think, yeah, mate, that's the overarching point that I'm trying to make. You know, it may suck to see Slick 37B get demolished and, you know, the end of an era with Delta activities. But what is planned to replace it is beyond even the Apollo engineers' wildest dreams for that launch site. I wonder what the launch mounts would look like without being able to dig down for the flame trench. Huh? What are you talking about, Seldian? They had no problem digging down for a flame trench at Boca Chica. It has a lower water table than the Cape does. Or a higher water table than the Cape. From the news article, a utility company has proposed building a liquefied natural gas plant west of Port Canaveral on Merritt Island. The LNG plant would potentially support cruise and space launch industries. Karen, where's this at here? So Merritt Island, west of Port Canaveral, that would be right here. They're already digging out the flame trench at 39A. Yep. There's so much room for activities. The amount of activities down here is making my head spin. Where will ships be static fired in Florida? Well, if they're using a breakover device, Kai Fox, right? If they're using a breakover device to get Starship and Super Heavy horizontal, and the initial Starships will be delivered from Massey or from Boca Chica, because the Roberts Road facility won't be up to snuff just yet, I'm going to go ahead and guess that Massey's would be your test site for initially for stuff fired in Florida. It's not so far-fetched of an idea. No Falcon 9 is tested on the launch pad, not anymore. They were once upon a time with static fires. Remember when SpaceX used to static fire every single Falcon before they flew it? So really, I didn't realize that. I thought that's why the Delta pad was built like that. It is built like that, Nimar, because that is a cheaper solution than digging a hole in the ground. It's just in line with typical 90s aerospace nonsense. Well, we could save money if we just buried the other pad underground and just built another one right on top of it. We wouldn't even have to worry about a flame trench. That's so 90s aerospace. I hate it. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that idea. I hate it. I hate it a lot. Only brand new ships will need to be static fired, right? Not Chris B's alt. Yeah. You love it? No. 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 There's something very poetic about that to me, to be honest with you. Like, let's, you know, oh, let's sit here. We could save money by building the entire pad up on a gigantic mound of dirt, and then we won't have to worry about building a flame trench and digging into the ground and building a flame trench. We're going to do that to save money. Literally creates the most expensive rocket dollar per kilogram amount for an expendable launch vehicle ever. Oh yeah, you really saved a lot of money there, pal. Nice, Sea Kraken. I hate this. I hate it so much, dude. Reject modernity, embrace tradition. Delta 4 cost, guys, a Delta 4 Heavy costs like $400 million. And it could move a little bit over 25 tons to low Earth orbit in the heavy configuration. The space shuttle at the end of the program cost $425 million for a stack. $425 million for a shuttle stack. That moves 25 tons and 7 people, and it comes back. Delta IV was massively expensive. Like, that's part of the, dude, I remember Elon testifying before Congress, probably like 10 or 11 years ago, testifying before Congress and say, like, how did you make that cost so much frigging money? How is that even a thing? You're screwing the taxpayer. Like, I remember, dude, he embarrassed the CEO of ULA in front of a Senate congressional hearing so badly that the board fired the CEO of the company the next day and replaced him with Tory Bruno. That's how Tory Bruno got to be the CEO of ULA. The last guy got embarrassed so hard by Elon Musk in front of politicians, he got fired the next day. Tory Bruno's a freaking man. We love Tory Bruno. This is a Tory Bruno appreciator stream. That guy's awesome. And that was for Delta IV? No, like, not necessarily, but yeah. He Tony Starked him. He absolutely Tony Starked him. It's really funny. Have you seen the stuff from Tory Bruno today? No, but he started a blog, or not a blog, he started a podcast. I have yet to listen to it. We should probably listen to it. That guy is one of the smartest people in the aerospace industry, full stop. Tory Bruno he's the chief executive officer of ULA. But the thing is, guys, is he's not no master, he's not no MBA. Tory Bruno's an aerospace engineer through and through. I don't know about you guys, it's pretty cool to have an aerospace engineer running a aerospace company. That's kind of neat. We should do that more, you know? Boeing, I'm looking at you. Then again, though, Kelly Ortberg is also an engineer, and he's running Boeing now, so. Was the flame trench lined with $100 bills? No, the reason, Andrew, why Delta carried such a heavy price tag is because the way that Delta boosters are assembled was designed to be assembled very, very quickly. It was designed to be built very, very fast because it was designed in anticipation of a lot of launches. Ironically, what SpaceX is actually trying to do with Slick 37 at this point, right? That's what it was supposed to do. It never happened because the dot-com bubble burst. So this rocket that was designed to be driven or flown all the time ended up not flying less than once a year, right? That's why it carried such a heavy price tag, because you have to maintain all those systems that were designed to launch a rocket every month or every 2 weeks, and now it's launching one every 6 months. You have to maintain all the damn equipment for it. That's why Delta ended up carrying a heavy price tag. Like I said, it's poetic. I think that's quite funny. Remember the time he called Raptor 3 unfinished? That was funny. Yeah. His reusability take was something. I still like him though. Yeah. We should have an aerospace engineer run NASA. I disagree. I think somebody that's politically savvy needs to run NASA, but also somebody, if you're politically savvy and an aerospace engineer, I wouldn't have a problem with that, Crispy Zalt. Having a straight engineer or scientist trying to run NASA would be awful. That would be very bad, because they would be thinking too logically, and politicians are anything but, as evidenced over the past week and a half in aerospace news. If you don't use something like that, you're supposed to, it costs more. Now you're talking nonsense. Yeah, I know. So what you're saying is we need dual major aerospace engineer and a politician. Yeah, but that only comes once in a blue moon. Yeah, Tory Bruno's ideas about reusability come from market demand. It's a pretty nuanced take. That's a pretty smart move. So, okay. The way that ULA looks at reusability only makes sense if you have a customer that's going to need you to launch a lot. Otherwise, looking at reusability makes no sense. What are you going to do reusing a rocket that you only launch once a year or twice a year? Space shuttle. Space shuttle would be the operative example there. That makes perfect sense. That's right. That's correct. But this is kind of that's a good way to look at it. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty smart. However, there's something interesting to understand here, okay? What's interesting to understand is the fact that there's kind of two kind of big, like, prevalent ways of looking at spaceflight macroeconomics like that. One of them is that way. There's no market demand for a reusable vehicle, so why make a reusable vehicle? Why am I going to do that? That's just me pissing away money, right? The other side of that is kind of more what SpaceX is about. SpaceX built a reusable vehicle. I mean, they built a reusable vehicle for a reason. They built it because they induced their own demand with Starlink. Now, a lot of people use that as a criticism of reusability, that SpaceX didn't really solve that demand problem. They're artificially inducing demand. But it's working for them because if you can artificially induce all the demand you want, if you're making profit off the satellites that you actually launch to, reusability makes sense. You arguably launch Falcon at a loss, but the revenue gained back from Starship or from Starlink more than justifies the cost of reusability there. Now, with all that being said, and this is the second part. This is the other way that I'm talking to you guys about. So let me just review. The first part is why would you build a reusable rocket? There's no market demand for it. If there's no market demand, why would you build it? Why would you build something nobody wants? The flip side of that, and this is what SpaceX is doing with Starship. They didn't necessarily do this with Falcon 9. What SpaceX is doing with Starship is the demand will come if we build something that everyone can use. Does that make sense? Think about it. If you have a rocket that launches 70, 80 times a year, and every time it launches, it's fully reusable, you get it back, and it's 100 tons to low Earth orbit, the argument there is that markets will open up because more people will invest in space technologies. The reason why more people will invest in space technologies is because a lot of your budget doesn't get eaten up from buying a $400 million launch vehicle to launch their thing into space. That's the idea. The field of dreams method. If you build it, they will come. So on one side, you have Tory Bruno's look at it, which is like, there's no market demand for this. I'm taking a huge risk trying to build reusable vehicles. Rightly so. With his company, that makes sense. SpaceX is, if we build this, people will launch things on it. That's like two prevalent spaceflight macroeconomic points of view. Like, I kind of agree with SpaceX on this one. I like Tory Bruno. I respect him a lot. That is a very astute observation of current market conditions. But that's just it. They're current market conditions. How far are you trending outward? Trending out for the next 10 years? Because the next 10 years, the market conditions ain't going to look like they do now because of that thing. Right? See what I'm trying to say? You know, if Henry Ford had listened to everybody say, no one's ever going to, like, not every single person is going to buy an automobile. There's no way, you know, a horseless carriage, no one's going to pick up on that. Everybody has a horse and carriage. Why would you make that? It doesn't make any sense. There's no demand for an automowhatsis or whatever, right? There's no demand for that. And then Henry Ford got a bunch of investors and then started mass producing them. And he started making a ton of them. And because he made so many, he was able to lower the unit cost and flood the market with Model Ts. Model Ts still require maintenance. They do not require as much maintenance as a damn horse. Right? That's called I said there was induced demand with Starlink. That's what induced demand is called in just regular economics. Then by the 1920s, everyone had a car, and most cars that people had were Fords. The Model T to this day is still one of the best-selling cars of all time, period. Because it was the first mass-produced automobile. It's the first one. Everybody wanted one. It eventually got to the point where cars were so cheap and inexpensive to operate, you would be crazy to have a horse. SpaceX is basically making the Great Western of space. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, sure. I think, Tessa, I would say the DC-3 of space. Maybe even the 707 or de Havilland Comet of space. Hopefully it's not the de Havilland Comet. No square window. Starship's renders have square windows, Tessa. Oh, crap. Maybe you should put circle windows on there. You know. 16 million Model Ts versus 41 million F-Series. I had to look it up. Trucks, baby. Trucks make the world go round, right? Don't forget it. So do Chinooks. You're picking up what I'm laying down. Chinooks, that's what I'm trying to tell you. A Chinook can pick up a truck and just move it over there. Just saying. Where does the square window go? That's right, in the decompression hole. Truck. The spruce goose of space. The hooks mostly repel the earth. Yeah, that's right. I believe you mean Hercules. Why are you guys talking about Howard Hughes? What, the spruce goose? He made one. He made one, and it was late. And that's why the Department of Defense said, piss off. He promised it by 1943, and he built it in 1946. He said, look, it works. And they said, great, the war's over. It's been over for a year. Why are you still making this? And then it never flew again. That's weird. Yeah, I wouldn't say Elon Musk is like Howard Hughes. He's more like Henry Ford in this regard. And, you know, idiosyncrasies like that aside, right? He is doing with Starship what Henry Ford did with cars 100 years ago. He's doing with Starship what Boeing did with the 707 50 years ago. Actually, it's more like 60 years ago at this point. But in my mind, a World War II aircraft is a 60-year-old airplane, not a like 80-year-old airplane. And an F-16 is a 20-year-old airplane, not a 50-year-old airplane. I hate that. You know what? Screw this conversation. I don't like this. This conversation took a turn for the worse. Anyway, did we ever finish the Ars article? Yes, we did. Anyway. The F-22 was over 20 years ago. The F-22, the YF-22 prototypes first flew in the early 90s. 20, try 30. Maybe we should play some summer car now. Oh dear. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the deep dive on Slick 37B and talking about what SpaceX's plans are for it in the future. I think it's a really cool launch complex, and I think it's finally going to it's finally going to get its paid its dues, all right? It's finally going to get some work done. Yeah, 2014 was like 5 years ago, dude. The 80s were 20 years ago, obviously. And it's still an overpriced piece of junk. You take that back. The F-22 is amazing. Can you please link the EIS? Yeah, sure, man. Let me just reopen the tab. Here you go. If you guys want to read more into that EIS, it's pretty awesome, dude. There are grandparents that are born in the 80s. Bro, why are you doing that? Stop that. Stop it. Stop. Look, here. Now I'm showing you that. Look. Yeah, you like that? You like what you see? Good. Well, you should. That's pretty cool. Get rid of the abomination pad. I hate it. I agree. The 90s was 10 years ago. The 80s were 20 years ago. Yeah, W. What? Yeah, of course. That's what happened. You're going to see kids that were born when I joined the Navy in 2 years. Dude, Victor, you want to know something weird? I was in a Mon Pa store the other day. And you know how Mon Pa stores at like the cash register have to, you have to be 18 to purchase cigarettes. If you were born before this date, you can't purchase, like if you're born after this date, you can't purchase it. Dude, the date was 2007. No. That one kind of hit me in the face. I'm like, what the hell? "2007 is 1 year before you were born." How can somebody be 18 that was born in 2007? Can you share the road with him? Yeah, don't do that, man. Don't do that to me. This doesn't seem like that was that long ago, dude. Like, that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to sit here and say that, like, oh, I'm old. Yeah, I know that. I get that. I understand. I can look at a calendar. Thank you very much. But also, did you talk at all about Air India? No, Oz, I haven't. And I'm probably not going to, dude. I have covered plane crashes in the past, but I only cover plane crashes if there's no casualties, if nobody dies. I have this thing about making money off of death on stream and how I don't really want to do that, like, ever. Dude, I can tell you this, in my 10 years of streaming, I've never shown the Challenger explosion once on stream, ever, and I never will. And I've never shown Columbia either. I get too upset. I get so mad. Like, it makes me so damn upset. So, I don't show death on stream. Nope, won't do it. And I know it's kind of funny considering I have an M&P shirt on. Like, I get it, but yeah, that, from what I can tell, that looks like it looked like a double engine failure. I didn't get this from my own analysis. I saw someone post it on X. There's the footage of the plane flying over and then going over the horizon and then a big puff of smoke coming up. Somebody pointed out that the rat was on the 787. The sound that the ram air turbine makes. Yeah, you can hear the rat. And so So the ram air turbine is an alternator that's attached to a fan. And in the event of total power loss, total loss of thrust, you deploy the ram air turbine and it spins and it generates electrical power. It's like if you took a fan, right, and you were driving a car down the highway and you stuck the pinwheel out the window, the oncoming air is going to make the thing spin. Planes deploy the rat if you have a total loss of thrust. Yeah. Yeah, that's not good, man. And yeah, I'm not showing the footage. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's play Summer Car. Double engine failures are very, very rare. That like it's a 1 in a billion shot, but it's 2025. Dude, yeah, it's like, I mean, Tessa, this is, you know what? I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say that. I thought about it. That's not the right thing to say. That's not the right thing to bring up. I'm not, never mind. I'll talk to you guys about it some other time. Let's play Summer Car. Does it auto deploy or is it manual? I don't know on the 787 diabetic. I have no idea. Yeah, Hokey, it's gruesome, dude. You never want to hit a failure mode like that at that phase of takeoff, dude. It's terrible. My heart goes out to everybody, you know, like that sucks, dude. There's nothing you can do. Like, the pilots know they're screwed. You know you're screwed. Like, you know you're screwed before you're screwed. Like, it's just like, oh, that's good. Great. Lovely. I'm having a terrible day. Oh, here, it's a brick wall. Lovely. Let's eat it. Yeah, W, I saw that. You said that before. Some rats deploy automatically. Not sure on the 787, but I assume yes. No. Tessa, I'll tell you what I was going to say some other time. Sounds like the engine's lost fuel. I don't know, dude. You don't give up, though. Well, you can't, Aqualex, right? You can't. You, dude. If I'm a pilot, like if I ever get to the point I'm a pilot on a plane, you scenario like that, I'm controlling the stick all the way down to the ground, one way or the other. There's too many people, some people behind you. No. Hell no. My hands on the damn yoke until the thing hits the ground. Because we're gonna go down. We're gonna go down swinging, baby. Yeah, if you guys want to learn more, I mean, spoiled. You linked Blank Illyrio's video. Yeah. Juan is way more qualified to talk about that than me. He's probably way more classy about it too. Anyway, let's tool over to Summer Car. I hope you guys enjoyed Space News today. I am going to start attempt 2, part 2 for our new Summer Car playthrough. That's coming at you here in, yeah, about 1 minute. I'm just gonna put on the title card here, change the titles to the stream, jog the YouTube stream, and I will be back momentarily. Thank you for watching the Space and Rocket Review. We'll be back, same time, same place, next Monday. Next Monday, June 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Okay, I'll see you guys in a minute for MSC. Thank you.